Well, apparently the key word around the globe is hot because it is definitely some hot weather here in Durham, North Carolina. And I was just talking to Nick, and it's apparently some hot weather in Spain as well. And I'm sure it's hot around the rest of the globe also. So definitely some hot weather. I'm sure there's some cool spots somewhere in the globe. If you're watching from one of those cool spots, please tell us about us and remind us what cool weather is like and all along those lines. But in more serious news, Iran's supreme leader threatens irreparable damage if the U.S. joins the war. So the Iran's supreme leader has issued new grave threats to Trump and the U.S. So that's definitely that is something that is going on as Iran's Khamenei has rejected Trump's call for surrender as thousands are fleeing Tehran. And Israel fire kills 140 in Gaza in 24 hours, medics say, as attention shifts to Iran. Israeli forces kill or injure 11 Palestinians awaiting food trucks, according to Gaza officials. And there's even a report yesterday of Israel killing at least 70 Palestinians in Gaza's deadliest day at aid sites. So definitely that is something that is going on as well. And as I said yesterday, lawmakers voted to decriminalize abortions for women in England and Wales. The UK Parliament voted to decriminalize abortion, repealing a Victorian era law. So while we did it in the opposite way and Roe versus Wade was reversed, it looks like they went in the opposite direction. So UK Parliament bans women from being prosecuted for late-term abortions, and abortion does remain a criminal offense in the UK because of the left's timidity or being timid is what the Guardian is saying, and they're saying we must learn from that and fast. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out and how enforced the rules are, and all along those lines. And I did learn that there's been a 90-day stay, and Kim may be interested in this. And I learned this earlier in another news report that I was looking at on TikTok. So apparently, President Trump has delayed for another day the what he wants to do in terms of getting somebody to buy TikTok or all along those lines. So they've got another 3 months to deal with that, and all in that space. And dozens of Bali flights were canceled after an Indonesia volcano erupts. So definitely that is something that they're talking about, as the Indonesia volcano spewed ashes more than 6 miles into the sky, and dozens of Bali flights were canceled. So that is something that folks are talking about as well. And Iran is asking its people to delete WhatsApp from their devices. So Iran asks its citizens to delete WhatsApp from their devices. And I know a lot of people use WhatsApp for international conversations and all along those lines. Meta concerned that Iran could ban WhatsApp after snooping claims. So apparently they're thinking that WhatsApp is going around snooping on them in Iran. And who knows, it might even be, because that's one of the concerns people have had about both WhatsApp and TikTok, is that it could be even spying on us as well. So who knows what's going on in that space. Israeli strikes shake foundation of Iran's theocratic rule. So definitely that's something that people are talking about as well. And Jordan Klepper calls Trump out for his Irish exit at G7. So G7 leaders failed to reach an ambitious joint agreement on key issues after Trump's exit. Zelensky has left the G7 with no Trump meeting or fresh arms support from the U.S. So I know that that's one of the things that I think he was going to the G7 looking for, and all along those lines. And Boeing 787's emergency power system likely active before the Air India crash. So Air India faces turbulence as plane crash prompts deeper checks and disruptions. And Ukraine is allowing multiple citizenship as war drags on. So Ukrainian parliament passes a bill allowing multiple citizenship. So Ukraine is permitting dual citizenship to combat the demographic issues. So that's something that they are looking at as well. And photos capture shooting of a man by a Kenyan police officer during protests against the police. So that's right. The whole notion of protest against the police isn't just a U.S. thing. So in the Kenyan protest, a police killed an unarmed civilian, and Nairobi demonstrations over Albert Ajwang's death sees Kenyan vendor manifest karaoke shot. So definitely that is something that people are talking about as well. And North Korea will send 5,000 workers to Russia, according to the Kremlin. So Kim Jong Un is sending another 6,000 people to Kursk after an estimated 6,000 of his troops were killed or wounded there. So North Korea plans to send military construction workers to and deminers to Russia. So it looks like they are sending thousands to help rebuild Russia's Kursk region. And definitely that's what folks are talking about. Just like they're talking about, could a strike in Iran cause a nuclear disaster? So definitely there are Iran nuclear sites that are the focus of Israel's attack. And IAEA confirms IDF hit at Karaj, and that is Tehran's uranium enrichment site. So definitely it looks like that's going on. And apparently Putin is set to take questions from international journalists. And we didn't get an invitation. I'm gonna have to talk to Nick about that and Sasha as well, because I'm sure he's got plenty of questions for Putin, as do a lot of other people on this network and everything like that. So I got to figure out why Pod TV did not get that invitation, since apparently it's a international journalist press conference that he's going to be holding, and all along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to see that space, and we'll definitely have to find out from Kim and Nick why we didn't get that invitation, since I know Nick's going to a big TV conference. Maybe he can find out how we get on those lists and all along those lines. And Trump convenes Israel-Iran Situation Room meeting in White House to weigh what the U.S. will do. Trump weighs potential U.S. military strike on Iran and demands unconditional surrender. And a Florida attorney general was held in contempt for immigration arrest. So Florida attorney general held in civil contempt over the immigration law. So judge finds the Florida attorney general in contempt for defying court orders in a major immigration case. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. And Minnesota shooting suspect started as a frustrated idealist. His writing show. So Tina Smith on a hit list in Minnesota, and they spoke out on political violence. And definitely members in the Capitol clashed over increasing their own security. So definitely that is something that people are talking about as well. So from sermons in the Congo to funeral home jobs, the Minnesota suspect life took a strange turn in recent years. So apparently he did all kinds of things as well. And Brad Landers, the New York City mayoral candidate, was arrested by the ICE agents at Immigration Courthouse. So that was reported on yesterday and all along those lines. But he has been freed after feds dropped charges after his dramatic arrest in the ICE court. And at least 5 elected officials have been arrested or confronted by police while protesting against ICE. And Hedges defers to general on the Pentagon's plans for Iran. So definitely looks like we could be getting even further into this war and everything like that. But the Trump administration has activated 2,000 additional military troops to Los Angeles. 2,000 more National Guard troops are on duty in Los Angeles as legal battle over that deployment continues. And the Ninth Circuit is weighing with the Trump's case for troops in LA. And some people are asking, is it an occupation or are they fighting rebellion? So that's definitely something that folks are talking about as well. And most taxpayers will see a cut. Senate's tax plan for Trump's spending package would primarily extend TCJA cuts. And I know that even Kimberly has talked about that, and I think Nick as well. So we'll see what they think about this, but apparently they will be extended and all along those lines. So definitely there's a lot going on, and Israel is running low on defensive interceptors, officials say. The Pentagon sends warplanes to Middle East as the Iran-Israel conflict continues. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about also in the news. So like I said, industry leaders are pleading with the White House on relief from raids after a setback. So Trump has conflicting messages on workplace raids, and that is leaving businesses reeling. So DHS reversed its courses, allowing immigration raids, as we said yesterday, to resume at farms, hotels, and restaurants. And the immigrants caring for the nation's elderly are losing their jobs. So that's definitely something else that is being talked about as well. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem has been hospitalized for an allergic reaction. We're not sure what it's an allergic reaction to, but she is transported to a DC area hospital after she had an allergic reaction yesterday, and all along those lines. And the Florida GOP skirmish has been dominated by lawmakers. It's DeSantis' turn now. So Florida House speakers stood up to DeSantis and shifted the power dynamic, and the Florida budget puts millions in reserves as the economic uncertainty brews. And definitely that's something going on. Because like I said, this is the time when a lot of people are looking at budgets. Durham, right here in Durham, North Carolina, they just passed their budget. And I think it was a multi-million-dollar budget, if I remember correctly. And it definitely had some things that I was looking for, like the extension of free buses and a number of other things. And they're also trying to figure out what they're going to do with the police station that has been sitting empty, the old police station, for a number of years. And that is still up in arms. And Cuomo holds a sizable lead over Mamdani in the New York City mayor's poll, and it looks like Cuomo is leading. And William G. Young, a Reagan-appointed judge, is fast-tracking Trump to trial. So judge ruled some DIH grants cuts were illegal, saying he's never seen such discrimination in 40 years, and that was reported on about 2 days ago. And it looks like a vaccine expert has left the CDC, and they are saying that Americans are going to die. So CDC vaccine advisor, who were removed from the committee by RFK Jr., are speaking out. So definitely there's a lot going on in the nation and all along those lines. And Virginia did have its election and everything like that. Apparently it was a nail biter, and I've got to find out exactly who won. And if somebody wants to look it up and tell me and everything like that, but they were saying that there were definitely some takeaways from that. But it was the Democratic primary, so it was a Democrat that won. It was found out what type of Democrat it was, but the Virginia governor's race could be a barometer for how voters feel about Trump and everything like that. So on that note, we're getting ready to bring in our folks and see what they've got to say about a number of these stories and what their concerns or non-concerns are, and all along those lines. So I do have Rick Rosner with me, and I do have Sasha Starr, and I've got Jatovi, and somewhere in there is Nick Palveda, one of the founders of the network, and all along those lines. How you gentlemen doing?
All right. So LA, between sheriff's deputies and street cops, we have 18,000 officers, and LA is not on fire. LA is completely normal, and to add 2,000 troops adds only about 10% to the total number that we don't need anyway. But it's not like we're overwhelmed, and even if we were, just adding 2,000 troops wouldn't do it. So it's all bullshit. It's performative. Those guys are just standing around. They're not doing jack shit, and because we don't need them to do anything.
Apparently, they don't need to be doing anything along those lines. But just tell me what's your take. It looks like we still have some more madness going on against Kristi Noem, who has all kinds of interesting views. Is got some sort of allergy going on and everything like that. We've got other things happening in the world as well. So, what's your take of Zelensky? And I'd love to hear Sasha's thoughts about this. But first, Jacoby, how are you doing? But Zelensky did not get any further support from the U.S. and all along those lines, or even further commitment, I guess, from Europe. But what is your take just on how the world is going on this particular day?
I mean, we've got Trump in the White House. What Rick just said is spot on. LA is not on fire. It's just straight performative. But yeah, the world feels wrong because we have a chaos agent as the head of the U.S. right now.
Yeah, just really quickly.
We do have a problem.
Hold on a second, because you have family members, Jacoby, that are in law enforcement in LA, and you want to talk about them, you can or not, and everything. But what is their reaction been to all of this? Because I do know you have family members that are literally on the LA police force and everything like that. So just what is their reaction been to this, or have you had a chance to conversate with them since that National Guard deployment took place?
I mean, I'd much rather not put them in a predicament.
Okay, that's fair enough.
We do have an issue in LA. My wife had a 2-for-1 coupon for ice cream, and she made me walk to the ice cream store, and the sun was way too hot on my face. And I got very cranky because we should have driven. So, there are problems in LA.
Yeah, our problems in LA getting from point A to point B.
And also the ice cream got melty on the walk home. So, I would call out the National Ice Cream.
You would call it the National Ice Cream Patrol if you could get them to get you back home.
Troops come in and they hold umbrellas over your head so that the ice cream stays in shadow.
That makes sense. Sasha, I know Zelensky came to the G7 looking to have a meeting with Trump, which did not happen because Trump took that early exit and all along those lines. And I don't think he got any further commitments from the European nations. So what is your reaction to how the success of Zelensky or lack of success with Zelensky on this particular trip, trying to get additional aid?
I think all this G7 meeting was about Trump. And since Trump left, the meeting lost its meaning. There was nothing to discuss. There was nothing. They didn't come up with communique as they usually do or so on. So in this case, Zelensky was in a very unfavorable situation to get anywhere. The problem with Zelensky and Ukraine at all is that despite all the help, it's helped Ukraine stay alive and not to lose a war and not to capitulate. It happened. However, what are the next step? Is it 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years? Is Ukraine capable to actually overwhelm and defeat Russia? So a lot of people believe that it's highly unlikely for various reasons. I don't think so. I think that Ukraine is getting stronger and stronger every month. It's creating new methods of fighting, a new the weapon systems, including ballistic missiles, which it now possesses. So the military prospects of Ukraine are as good as never before. So the Western help is required less and less than ever before as well. So I think Ukraine has great prospects. The major problem for Ukraine was, in the last little while, was Trump. Because Trump is playing with Putin a game how to make Ukraine capitulate. Trump needs capitulation of Ukraine for several reasons. Number one, if Ukraine will capitulate, then Russia's hands are untied and it can proceed to Moldova, Baltic republics, and once that's accomplished, then it could go farther to Poland and so on. It cannot do so while Ukraine is fighting. So for Trump, necessary, the outcome is capitulation of Ukraine. That's where he is playing with Putin, the same game. He allows Putin to continue to brutal bombardment of civilian population. This is all done not only with the knowledge of Trump, but with encouragement of Trump. He betrayed everything what he said in his election campaign, that he will make a peace in 24 hours. Never mind 24 hours, even in 3 months, 6 months. He cannot do anything. He's an impotent. And the reason is his own policy. Instead of working with Ukraine, which happened very quickly, Ukraine agreed to rare metal deals. Ukraine agreed to ceasefire in 30 days. Everything what Trump proposed, Ukraine unconditionally agreed. With Putin is a different story. Putin wouldn't agree to anything, whatever Trump would propose, and yet he would treat him as a best friend, and he would treat him that we need Putin maybe to help us with Iran. What nonsense it is coming from this 80 years old idiot. What nonsense is it when Israel already disabled completely Iran? Now he's taking steps to claim victory of United States when it hasn't done nothing. So this is Trump is a problem of the United States. It's a problem all over the world. It's a problem with Ukraine. It's a problem everywhere. That's what you have when you elect the liar, conman, criminal to a position as a head of state.
Well, speaking of that and everything, and this is for everybody on the panel, including Rick and Jacoby, how concerned are you about a relatively small nation threaten, quote unquote, irreparable damage if the U.S. enters the Israel conflict? And that's literally what the leader of Iran said on earlier today and everything like that. And we do know that a lot of times people bluster in the middle of international conflicts and all along those lines. But how concerned are you about this expansion of the war should that happen?
Well, I'm mostly liberal, but I've kind of thought that somebody had to do something about Iran's nuke program for a long time. And, it was always going to come to something like this. But, Iran's not a small country, 90 million people, 800 or 1,000 miles across, probably close to the size of Texas.
Okay.
So, I've heard that, if Iran gets a nuke, why would they be suicidal enough to drop a nuke on Israel? And I heard the argument that, well, they could take out Israel with a nuke and just, render much of it uninhabitable because Israel's only 50 miles across. And Iran could drop a nuke and then be hit by several nukes itself and survive because it's such a big country. Mm-hmm. So, it's a mess. Trump's ineptitude doesn't make it better, but
speaking of ineptitude and not making it better,
really quick though, Mark.
Yeah,
the thing is, we're being so. I was watching a show last night, and they had pointed out that the two countries with nuclear weapons are telling another country that they can't have nuclear weapons. I get that. I understand. I mean, I agree. I'm against all the wars and stuff like that. And I understand, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. But how many times must we hear that they are on the brink of having a nuclear weapon? Because we've been going on 30 years now that they've been weeks away. And I remember going in the whole yellow cake incident. There were weapons of mass destruction from Iraq. How long did that war take? It wasn't a one-day thing, and that just kept going and going and going. So there were the thing that struck me, what somebody said, and it is very true. What about day 2? Day 1, you go in and you bomb and do all this other stuff. You're going to topple a regime. That's the whole thing. That's the whole point of it in the first place. But what about day 2? What happens then? What goes on after that? How long must the war go on to consider it to be just? And those are the thoughts. Like the war in Afghanistan, we just ended that when Biden came in. Mm-hmm. That was what, 20 plus years?
Yeah, so, it's been a while, and you've got a good.
Are we going to be on the brink of another 20-year war because of yellow cake, or because of weapons of mass destruction, or because Israel or Iran is 2 weeks away again, even though the intelligence said that they're years away? I mean, it's
very confusing.
Well, they say two things about Iran. They say, that for 30, 40 years, they've said they're a week away from having a bomb. They also say that there's going to be the government is about to fall and it'll return to a Western government. They've been saying that for 40 years, and it hasn't happened. And in the 70s, Iran was a westernized country. They always show pictures of women wearing miniskirts in 1975, but that was 50 years ago. And those women are old women now. And we don't know, even if the regime fell, what it would be replaced with.
Right. I mean, that's the problem with regimes that fall.
That's the whole issue in itself. Is there's day 1. We can, again, they drop the bombs and do all the other stuff, destroy nuclear facilities and so on and so forth. Okay, regime is toppled. What about day 2? It's not over, and that's the scary part.
And we've destroyed their nuclear. Israel has destroyed Iran's nuclear program before. In under Obama, they released a computer virus, Stuxnet, that made all their centrifuges that enrich uranium, made them all spin out of control and destroyed everything.
And if you think about it, what's even scarier now, though, is that we had a nuclear deal in place that Iran was actually complying by. But now we're stuck in a situation where we have a president who's literally threatening the leader of another country, also with our bases that are sitting there. It's just, we're in a position, a very, very bad position right now. Especially
in a precarious position, but just really quickly, and kind of going to another issue, but it is something we talk about quite often on this network, but I definitely want to hear y'all's thoughts about it, because I know that David Walker oftentimes talks about the economy and this $1 trillion debt that we're in and everything. And the House policy bill that is up now and everything, they're saying would add $3.4 trillion to the debt, and the debt could swamp whatever economic gains that the Doge might have made or not made and everything. So they're saying that the Trump tax bill could widen the deficit by $2.8 trillion after factoring in even the economic impacts and everything.
Well,
so we just going to continue to.
That's over 10 years. It adds $300 billion a year for 10 years. But it's a garbage bill. It's a shell game. It's 1,100 pages long. Nobody's read the whole thing. The Republicans are hoping to get it passed without people exactly knowing what's in it, because it's got a bunch of horrible stuff in it, including selling off 120 million acres of federal parks and wilderness to developers. It's got so much sneaky garbage in it.
Well, speaking of sneaky garbage, I had an interesting conversation, actually a couple of conversations yesterday with people about the Trump administration. The last administration, I forgot how many people he fired, but he fired a bunch of folks and everything like that. And it looks like he may be heading toward that again. He's not too pleased with Pete Hedges. Him and Tulsi Gabbard, are having a whole argument over the Iran nuclear threat. And definitely they're claiming that the president and the intel chief, which is what Tulsi Gabbard is supposed to be, are in sync, but that doesn't always seem to be the case when they have differences of opinion and all along those lines. So are we going to see another mass firing and a number of these people that were put into his administration and thrown underneath the bus, if I can use that proverbial saying?
We can only hope. They're all dopes. It would be like putting me in charge. It'd be like, they're flailing, but who do they get replaced with? Another sycophant who's also not competent or experienced?
Yep. And by the way, it looks like the military is getting honest about Trump's parade, and there are a lot of the military folks that are saying that they weren't all that enthusiastic about the parade. And there's even some experts that were asked why the soldiers were marching so badly, and apparently it's because of their being lack of enthusiasm for even being there in the first place and everything. So it does seem like, even whether you're reading BuzzFeed or some of these other things, that folks are getting honest about what's going on in that space and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see if this continues, and maybe folks are, even in the military, are getting frustrated by the Trump administration. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and everything. I'm surprised Nick hasn't come on, since he's oftentimes wondering about what's going on with the military and with the.
No, I'm just listening to your false one-sided presentations on everything.
Well, and, since you're listening,
I'm watching the ratings drop because most of America does not agree with you, and
most
you guys
of America doesn't agree with me.
The thing is, even the idiotic protests that took place, 98% of the population didn't even bother to show up. They're not interested in all your progressive BS agenda, especially from Canada. And the Canadians continually try to tell us how to run our country, and they're continually wrong. They're a tiny little country north of ours. They don't even equal one state that we have. Florida has more GDP than they do. And then they bitterly complain about how we run our country. And they haven't done jack forever. So the thing is, if you look at Canada,
Nick,
please don't make
I got a
that
question.
Nick,
Nick, I got a
Robert,
question
Nick,
for
it
you.
sounds
I
like
see
you're
that.
And so the thing is, when you listen to this progressive agenda, and this is the reason you guys lost the election, you lost the majority, you continue to lose, because you continually try to press upon your idiotic progressive agenda.
Nick,
And
I
that's
got a
not what the
question for you. Hold on a
American
second. I got a
public
question for you.
wants.
This is for both
They
you
want,
and
they
hold on a
want
second. This is
better
for both you
incomes,
and
better
Steve, because I know
schools,
it's of a
better
DC
housing,
office.
better economy. They don't want transgenders and gay people coming in with what do they call it, these weird the men that look like women. I don't know what you call them, coming into schools, reading books. They don't want internet for all. They don't want this huge let's spend money on everything.
We haven't talked about any of that. All
So
we've
what
talked about
happened?
is we're halfway through the show. All we've talked about is we want competent governance.
You know,
haven't talked
well,
about-
you're not going to get competent governance if you can't elect one leader from your party, and you can't because
That's a
you
reasonable
complain. Listen, you complain about kings when Kamala Harris was anointed the queen, so you can't complain about him being king when he actually went through a process. And Kamala Harris was Omna Patria Fili, you're the queen now, and you don't even go through a primary. So
Yeah, the
real
election was
problem you
8
have in
months
your
ago.
party
You're-
and your
you're
progressive-
Yeah, the election was 8 months ago. Hey, Nick, hold on a
is
second.
that you
Hold on a
lost
second.
the election. I had to move to Spain because I just couldn't stand what you guys are doing.
No,
over
but
there.
Nick, hold on a second. I got a
And
question for
you
you. Hold on.
opened the doors.
Hey,
you
Nick,
opened the
Nick.
doors for MAGA to come in.
No, Nick,
because
I got
you're
a question for you,
stupid.
and it's based
And
on
you
what you get.
want
Hold
to
on.
keep your progressive agenda.
No, hold on a
Take your
second. Not
progressive agenda. I got a
not
garbage
about
can here.
progressive agenda.
Take your progressive
Hey, Nick,
agenda, dump it
Nick, I
in
got a
the
question for
garbage
you.
can, please.
Everything along. Oh,
And
hold on a second.
focus in on the good stuff that Americans need. They want better housing. They want better jobs. They want a better economy. They don't want open borders. If you focused on that, you would have been in office. Instead, you're sitting on Pod TV whining about what's going on in Washington, D.C. So
Well, speaking
continue
of
whining.
whining, hold on a
I'll
second,
listen
Nick.
in the background. Enjoy your whining, but that's all
No,
you
Nick,
do.
I'm
hold on a
here.
second. Don't go back in and get because I got a question for you because I brought
Yeah,
it up
right.
earlier. This is for both you and Sasha and everything because I know he's not a fan of this gentleman and everything. And I brought it up jokingly earlier, but I know you're going to this big conference in Budapest later on
Sure.
and everything. Why aren't we getting the invitation to be at the press conference? Because I know Sasha's got questions for Putin. So why aren't we being invited to the Putin press conference? Because it's an international press conference that he's holding later on.
The Putin press conference, I have no clue, why you want to be invited to Putin's press conference. Mainly it's because I guess Russia's not really in most favored nation status right now with most of the West.
Not
So I guess-
according to Trump. According to Trump, Putin is his best friend. He wants to bring him into G7. He wants him to help negotiate with Iran, although there is nobody to negotiate with in Iran, as this idiot should know by now. There is no one left to negotiate. There
Wait,
is
don't they have Khomeini, Sasha?
many. Nobody knows if he's alive. Nobody saw him in the last 6 months. Maybe he's dead for a long time. And if he's not dead, he will be killed anytime now. So there is no one to negotiate with. Do you understand that? America never had what you're talking about, good jobs. No, America will never get good jobs because it's losing competition all over the world with this tariff stuff, with the idiotic policies. America will not get
You're just a Canadian. You're a Canadian whiner. You're whining because we collected 160 billion in tariffs.
down. Your companies are doing extremely well.
And the Canadians had to pay for it.
Like
Yeah.
Google, like Meta, like all these companies are doing fantastically well. But it has nothing to do with America. They're not paying taxes in America. They're paying taxes in Ireland or somewhere else. So America is going down big time. Now, get rid of Trump.
That's your complaint. Sasha, you complained about a couple months ago. The stock market. Hey, did you look at the stock market recently? I just sold a lot of stock with a lot of profits. You were complaining a couple months ago it was going to be down, and it was down. But guess what? It came back with a vengeance. So all your hypothetical opinions are just basically wrong. I'm cashing in while you guys are saying, oh, America's going down the tubes. Thank you. If this is America going down the tubes, I become pretty rich, so I'm happy.
Well, this talks
Nick,
Because you're wrong.
Okay,
John.
I just kind of tuned everything out because you kept rambling about some random crap. But here's the Nick.
I'm glad you did, because
There-
progressives
there is
have no,
something I did
no
wanna ask
voice
you.
in America right now.
Hold on,
But go
Nick.
on,
There's
you
something I
have
did
voice
want to
here.
ask you. I wanted to ask you. Nick, hold on. I wanted to
I was
ask you
gonna
something.
leave it go behind.
You rant and rave about all the good things that Trump does, but then you turn around and say you moved to Spain to get away from it. Those two things don't match. If it were so good, why did you run away?
I didn't run away. I just like the European Union better. Is there anything wrong with that, Jato?
You said that Trump did all this good stuff, but yet you ran away.
Well, but I didn't run away. Okay, here's what I did. I'm not running away. I'm still a citizen
Is that what I'm
of the
hearing?
United States. I purchased a residence here in the wonderful European Union. Okay,
Nick,
because the thing is, it's very hard to listen to your progressives bicker against the MAGAs, and the
So you went
Independent
through-
Party, which is the most majority, don't get to have a voice
you've already,
because the progressives and the MAGAs drown them out. You know,
You've
what am I
already said
supposed
all
to
that.
say?
What I'm saying
So here,
is,
here I don't have to
Trump
listen.
did all this
I
great stuff,
can just
but you
tune
left the
out and
country.
go somewhere else.
You claim that Trump did all this great stuff, but you
Yeah.
left the country.
No,
So
I-
did you leave the country because you knew Trump did all this
Typical
bad?
progressive- Typical progressive spin.
Your
Okay?
timing was
Typical
really good.
progressive,
Hold on.
yeah.
You hold
Somebody got moved
Well, let
somewhere
me
and all of a
say
sudden.
a couple freaking words. Your timing was great. You got your money out before the tariffs. Trump's tariffs cost.
Hey, Rick,
cost
it had nothing to do with the tariffs. It had to do with, did you see the dollar versus the euro?
Yeah, but
Okay.
that's
I got it out when the dollar was trading at, I got 98 cents.
You talking about
for the
real quick,
euro.
Nick.
Now it's down to 86.
Nick? So you got your money out
before
when Trump
tanked the
Dark-
dollar.
Oh, well, we knew the dollar was going to Trump.
It wasn't
He did it
progressive
before.
to
Come
tank
on.
the dollar. It
You know,
wasn't
that doesn't mean there's not opportunities, Jacoby. Jacoby, you need to look for the opportunities in life. Think about the progressive.
the opportunity was
Make
so
your bank account
you got your
progressive, not
money.
your
you
ideology.
knew Trump was going to screw everybody, so you got your money out. before
Listen.
Trump screwed
Make your
everybody.
bank account progressive,
That's
not
what
your
I'm
ideology. Okay? If
It's
your
not
bank account
ideology,
was
it's
progressive like mine, you'd be a very
Now,
happy man.
The contradictions in
Complaining on
everything that you're
Fox TV
saying.
every day. But
You
no,
got
it was
your money.
really
Nick,
good. I really
Nick,
did.
I have one thought for you. Like right now you are in Europe. If you come to Bangladesh, you get more money. You can convert more money. You can generate more cash, and you can build this Port TV Bangladesh.
Well,
and you
yeah,
get- and
it's
you
quite
get
possible.
millions.
I end
Yeah.
up buying a place in your wonderful country. I will have to look
Yeah.
into that.
Today,
Because I love to
today,
have multiple
today-
residents,
today-
especially if I get good deals.
today I visit one of the universities called Islamic University of Technology. It's
Sure.
OIC funded. So I find the vice chancellors and all of the professors and scholars, they are very tensed. What's going on in between this
Yeah.
Muslim community with Israel and Iran? Why? I said, hey, if you want better prediction, go and meet with Nick and
Yeah.
give some consultation from Nick. Maybe he can solve all of the Muslim world
Well,
problems.
actually, I'm meeting with a very fine Islamic gentleman who's actually from Doha next week to discuss
great.
the idea that we're discussing about the World Talent Show. Because the thing is, that has a lot of merit. And now that you're here, Dr. Sharif, I am looking for, and maybe you can find a group or a university or somewhere where they have a good musical school that we can bring abroad. In Hungary, they have what they call the Franz Liszt Academy. In the United States, which Mark Lee knows, remember the head John who heads up the Duke?
John Brown, yeah, I just saw him on Saturday.
So hear me out on this World Talent Contest. We'll have Duke University in the United States versus the Franz Liszt Academy in Hungary for the first round of the World Talent Show. So as you can see, you see what we're doing here. Okay, you have big names. So the thing is, we need one from your neck of the woods who will compete against Duke University and compete against the Franz Liszt Academy. And also, I'm a member of Carnegie Hall, and Carnegie Hall could also be in the competition. This could be a very exciting thing to put together, Dr. Sharif. Okay.
Yeah, I bring many talented
Sweet. Yeah.
I bring many talented from different universities, all of the let's say OIC universities, public university, private university. I already share our information. So if you share your partner names, so I can share the Sport TV and our partners. Like you can
I will. But we're going to. This is a very doable deal. Putting a world talent show together. Dr. Sharif using leading universities. Musical programs to be the presenters inside the show. So I think we have a very doable deal. Now, again, this is progressive, but makes my pocketbook progressive. I love discussing politics, but unfortunately, I do not make any money at this. It's kind of more fun and entertaining, but it just doesn't increase my Green Party. I'm a member of the Green Party, which is I like to see.
You like money. Speaking of liking money and everything along those lines, we had a major.
Politics doesn't make anybody green. I mean, it's just,
and another important thing, sir, like from next month, I already shared. Nick, you are the part of this CEO training program, and many scholars from around the world, many famous people from Europe and from North America, they are joining us in the training program from MIT, from Stanford and Harvard. Anyway, so it's become very popular in between the student community. They love to learn more. So they may invite you in online, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, just share your experience and everything. But I get a very good response from the CEO training program.
Well, you send that invite. My problem, of course, is always timing. The only reason I show up for this show is really
you can record it.
Like next week, I got
Kimberly's invited too and everything like that. I do have a question for everybody on the panel that is based on what I know of inflationary times and recessions and depressions. If we go back in history, and I do follow history sometimes, that is when people start targeting major incidents and everything. So we're going to see more incidents like what happened yesterday, because apparently we had one of the largest jewelry heists in U.S. history that took place. So 7 men were charged with stealing $100 million worth of gold and diamonds in one of the largest heists in that area. And it was actually in Rick's area. It was in California. So we're going to see more people that are desperate and trying to rob Brinks trucks, because we know Brinks has got
Mark, that's obviously a bad business model. You were doing very good until you told me they were arrested. Now, if you said they heisted out millions of dollars and they can't find these people anymore, my ears would be attuned. But unfortunately, you said they were arrested, which means that this business model is a failure. Because the business model of robbing jewelry stores is a failure, as Mark Cuban would say, I'm out.
So the jewelers are being ripped off twice, once by the robbers who were they got lucky. They weren't that skilled. The article on them in the LA Times ran down some of their other robberies, and they were mostly small time, and a lot of them failed. This was just lucky. But they also got ripped off by Brinks, because Brinks is saying, yeah, your jewelry might be worth $100 million. We're only paying out $8.7 million. And they're in court fighting the security company too, the jewelers, some of whom were driven out of business.
Question: when they arrested these men, didn't they recover the jewelry and
some
stuff?
Some of it, but nowhere near the $100 million. And so, that stuff, if some stuff can't easily be moved because it's a well-known stone or piece, I guess, but most stuff is easily, you tear the stones out of it, you melt down the gold, and you move it, and you sell it for 10 cents on the dollar. But no, they recovered very little.
So apparently it might be a good model, because who knows what will happen. The narrative in most movies is you go and serve your time, and then you have it hidden somewhere, and then you live the rest of your life in riches. At least that's
these guys they're not super competent guys. This was not like it's not like in the movies where your crew is Charlize Theron and Mark Wahlberg. This was a bunch of kind of low rent guys who got lucky.
Gotcha. It didn't necessarily have a plan.
Well, they didn't get too lucky because they were caught, but the people who are paying now are the victims yet again, because You know,
But
they're not being compensated for their losses. And
but Kim, this comes down to what I was asking. I mean, I was using an extreme example in the case of a robbery, but I can tell you that if I go up about a block or two from now, there are 2 convenience stores, and I guarantee you there are a bunch of people, and we've talked about this even on Sasha's show, that are trying to buy lottery tickets or trying to buy other things because they are feeling the pinch of the economy and all along those lines. So they're trying to find a way to get rich quick and everything like that. And there are a number of people, there's probably been an increase in those sales. I don't know this because I don't study that all that much and everything, but I'm guessing that there's probably an increase in the sales of.
Let's go back to the previous story
from $2 to $5.
But let's talk about can we go back to the robbery story for a second? Because Sasha hates when it's supposed to be about politics and it's not. But these robberies are about politics because the price of gold is now $3,400 an ounce. And if the world weren't on fire, gold wouldn't be so expensive and people would have less of a reason to break into jewelry stores because we're getting
which is my point. Which is my point about the lottery ticket.
Few people, and they said that get rid of your cash, invest in gold, and
don't do it now. Then you're buying at the peak of the market. Do it a year ago when gold was $2,400 now.
Well, next year it's going to be double. So I mean, we're in the middle of a wind. And the window is going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Sasha can tell you, Sasha has experience with mining enterprises. Gold is a tricky thing to try to buy. And, gold doesn't pay dividends. A company can grow.
I want to ask you an interesting question. Are you suggesting that the jewelry robbers are watching gold prices and say, let's see, at 3,400 we are going to rob jewelry or whatever else, and if it's only 2,700, no, it doesn't make any sense to rob.
No, but
are they?
No, I mean that would be dumb, but stuff's expensive now, and I don't know what makes a jewelry robber rob.
You're not going to get cash anymore at a lot of places because everything is digitalized nowadays. I've just got to warn some people: the laws have been changing, but be careful in what you digitalize your currency in, because some of it will be. I mean, the reason why they went in and took all of our names and identity with Doge was so that they could acquire our assets in the future. So just be very careful with what is digitalized.
No, but Kim, it's getting so bad that I have literally seen signs. I know I've seen at least 1, maybe 2 or 3 where a lot of people, there was a time that homeless people would panhandle and ask you for money and they would want you to have dollar signs, but now they realize that a lot of people don't have dollars on them. So I have literally seen panhandlers that have their hashtag of their Cash App on their signs.
I see it everywhere. There was a guy who built an app so that you scanned or bumped the phones and it would donate money or tip or whatever. It was a tip app, but people were using it as a donation, or they were playing, music on the corner and they had the little thing and it was an app just to do specifically that. But the thing is that what I have noticed in a lot of other countries where, convenience store robberies have become prominent is they have literally put bulletproof glass where the cashier is. And you slide in and out of a hole your credit card. They don't even want you tapping your credit card. They want to see your driver's license. You can't pump gas now without giving your driver's license. Literally, they will not let you pump gas without giving your driver's license.
You're right
even
about
if
that.
You pay with a credit card.
That glass partition has been very popular. I actually just went and got a soda last week when I got the haircut and everything. And yes, the woman was behind a partition. So there are a number of stores like that, even here and everything. I guess that, and I think that if I'm
a lot of the partitions are still the COVID partition, so they don't really protect you. But I have seen full blown, like the bank, a bank has full blown with a little bitty speaker that you can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I go, what? You need my what?
Nick, I got a question for you and everything, because I know that you, and this is going to be one of those controversial issues and everything, but it did happen in Georgia and everything, because, one of the things that we talk about here on this network is the whole notion of abortion. And apparently a baby was delivered prematurely from a brain dead woman on life support in Georgia. And this was all because of the abortion law that they have there in Georgia and everything. So the family says the baby was delivered through a C-section from a Georgia woman who was already brain dead.
Response, I want to add to the story just a little bit. It's Adriana Smith. She went in for assistance with not feeling well and having some problems, and they didn't do anything to run tests on her or to assist her while she was pregnant. I don't think she was that far along at the time, and they probably could have aborted the baby and saved her. But instead, they sent her home and did absolutely nothing. And when she woke up, or when her husband woke up, or boyfriend woke up next to her the next morning, she was unresponsive. When they took her to the hospital, they didn't give the family a choice to abort the child. And I think she might have been 9 weeks. But they were the hospital was so scared of the abortion laws that they kept the mother alive on life support until the baby could be delivered via C-section healthy. So they literally used the mother as an incubator against the family's wishes to give birth to a baby that has no one to take care of it right now. So the family's still grieving over Adriana's death. Right. Again, I'm going to use her name because I think it's very important that we identify the fact that this woman was not treated properly when she first went in to get help. So, Nick, now you can answer Mark's question.
What's your question, counselor?
I just wondering.
Are you asking me to opine on a medical matter?
Yes.
If that's the case, I will not do that. I'm not a medical specialist. So the thing is, I'm not, you have to ask the doctor and you have to ferret out.
But opinion,
I'm positive this progressive network will find that abortions are great and wonderful, but without looking at the facts. I'm just very positive they'll do that.
I don't,
so
Nick,
I don't think it should be used. But if not, to me, this is a medical decision, and you have to defer to the experts, which are the medical doctors.
Yeah, but aren't being deferred to. The law is stopping doctors from making their best decision.
Exactly.
They don't want to be prosecuted. A woman comes in with issues, and they're like, well, I could help her and lose my license, and that would mean that I wouldn't be able to help hundreds of other women. So this lady's just going to have to go home and have a blood clot in her brain.
There's a woman right now that's in prison for losing her baby.
Remember the law, if you go look at it very carefully, it's a balancing act. And the thing is, I know that the liberals,
Nick, hold on, before you continue.
Have no problem balancing it in the favor of the woman and against the unborn child. But the law right now is a balancing act.
Nick, hold on. You just said that you could not comment because you would defer to the medical profession.
Correct.
But then you turn around and say that those people must defer to the law.
No.
Are we actually going to
be more of a legal question than a medical question?
Or are we going to sit there and listen to the individuals who make up a law based on their religious beliefs? So you can't have it both ways and say you can't comment, yet they should listen to the law.
I was discussing the legal aspect,
but the point being, Nick, let me finish my point for you. The point being is that it should be left up to the woman and her medical professionals, as you started out with.
Yes, assuming there's a balancing act. Okay, because the thing
it's not a balancing act for you.
This is where for some reason the liberals, and this is the reason you lost the election, is you see only things through your eyes, and you don't see it through the eyes of the unborn child. And because you don't do that, you lost.
Well, Nick, I'm just going to add here, I see things through the eyes of the 24 million children who are abused, that were forced to be born into this world to unwanted parents. And so those are the eyes I see through. So who's taking care of those? The pro-lifers? or the pro-birthers.
To
No.
my knowledge, there's
So-
this thing called contraception that they can do. In other words,
So you're
Contraception.
saying that
Contraception has also
this
been
is gonna be a
removed.
hard word.
Nick,
This could be a hard word.
Nick.
You guys are gonna have a tough one with
Nick,
this.
hold
one.
on, Nick.
Progressive.
Nick,
Listen
just
to
a quick
this
thing,
word.
just
It's
a quick
two
thing.
words actually.
Just
Two
a
words.
quick
Progressive. Listen to
thing.
this.
Just a quick thing
You
because
could take
you pointed out something.
personal responsibility.
Nick, hold on.
I
So
agree.
tell me, I
I
want
agree,
you
but
to
they
tell me.
took contraceptives off the
Yeah, I
shelf.
got you real quick. I got Nick.
I
Can
know,
you
I know,
tell
I
me?
can't do that.
Hold on. Can you
Personal
tell me? Hold on,
responsibility.
Nick.
Yeah,
Now you said this is where it just gets so asinine in your answer. So
I'm
you said
having a
you're
good
talking
time.
about responsibility. Can you tell me a responsible rapist?
Personal responsibility.
Can you tell me a responsible rapist?
Personal.
Was Trump a responsible rapist?
Are there? You know.
I don't think that
Well, we
exists.
know who
Yeah.
voted for Trump.
I'm just
All the
saying, if you look at what the progressives have done to the United States of America,
Rapist.
Well, hold on a second.
First thing
We
you
only
do
got
is
5
you
more
jump
minutes
up
to go.
and say,
Nick,
I'm
hold on
a
a second, Nick. We
single
only got
mother.
5 more
Like,
minutes
that's
to
a
go,
great thing.
and I've got one more issue to bring up really quickly, and this is for you, Nick. What is our thoughts around? Because I brought it up earlier in the news, but we've got a 90-day reprieve. I know that Kim is a big fan, and I have become a fan as well
We get something
of
free.
TikTok and everything. So what is up with Trump extending the TikTok? Because apparently they're even saying he could face a lawsuit for this. So apparently he's going to give them another 90 days to try to get an American buyer for
Yeah,
TikTok.
So the
you know,
problem
we'll see what
with
happens.
TikTok right
TikTok
now
knows where the
is
clock's going.
They
You know, who
banned
knows
so
where
many
TikTok's
words that
going.
people are making up new words for everything. Like you can't use the word female, you can't use the word abortion, you can't use the word murder, killed, died. You can't even say died. But you know, so I'm just going to give heads up because you can't say someone's stupid anymore. So I have, and they've redefined words for all of these words on TikTok. So MAGA is the word for stupid. I just want to know when you hear me say the word MAGA, it means stupid. Okay. And I'm spreading that to TikTok so that they know when I say MAGA, it means stupid. And
See, you know what Pod TV stands for now. PO stands for.
But you know what? We don't ban people for using words.
Progressive television. PO.
Oh, but TikTok's allowed to use
television.
FUCK hand over fist. So
we should rename it the Pod TV. Progressive television. PO. Progressive television. So everybody would certainly enjoy that one. Jacoby would be bathing in the sea of wonderfulness with it being renamed.
We've got some people that are very conservative on the network as well. We've got Jonathan Lockwood.
No, they've all you guys picked them all up.
Others
They
that are
all
on
got scared and they
Peter
ran.
Bennett and others. So I don't know that we can call ourselves progressive television because there's some people in the progressive.
Well, let's ask Jacoby. Let's ask Jacoby. He can make that decision. Should we rename
actually, we're People's Open
TV,
Dialogue TV, Pod TV, People's Open Dialogue TV. We're just open to any topic you have. We're almost at the top of the hour. People, please watch Sasha's show on how to improve your investing. He really is very experienced at this. I think that's following this show, and then also we have some great shows. We have Naked at Night, which I love. TikToks are a big fan of it. We have also the Russia-Ukraine updates with Sasha. So please, we are very open. We allow our people to talk about all of these subjects that are being banned. I just typed up some words the other day on a pink backdrop, and Facebook went and deleted all my words. So, it's just a blank pink backdrop. So just, remember that, America used to be free. America used to have the freedom of your voice and freedom of speech. America used to be kind and compassionate to people. And America has been lied to by the president, by its gnome, and by its minions. And hopefully we will, resurrect and remove the president, his gnome, and his minions soon. So thank you for watching us. Mark, I'll leave it for you to wrap.
Okay, no problem. Like you said, we're going to wrap up. Sasha will be on at 1 o'clock. I think we've got Milan joining us as well. And of course, probably Jim Ead. And we'll see who else joins us in that conversation. But a lot's going on the market. So I'm sure you'll have a lot of things to report, Sasha, and all along those lines. So we'll be seen at 1 o'clock when you have that show coming as well. And then we've got the online dinner party. We'll have that's at 4 o'clock. And we'll have some entertainers coming on that show, as well as some people from the world of business and a number of other communities as well, because it's just like a regular dinner party. We invite different people on. I think I've got on this particular episode one of Jatovi's friends, Wafik, that might be joining us from the improv world and all along those lines. So on that note, we're going to get on out of here, and we'll at 1 o'clock have the investment show, Modern Investment, with Sasha Starr, and there's other programming coming up as well. So let's get on out of here.